All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in our panel now, along with Andrew. We're joined by Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist and former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association. I want to be clear, not that they're his scandals, but he's been around more than a few politicians who've had some, and he give us some insight on how they deal with it. And, of course, the one, the only, Dominic Carter here. Exactly. Okay. We got a few things going on. I want to draw on your experience, and Pedro Espada, when you say the name, you say scandal, you say crisis management, all those things. Is he still in the pokey, by the way?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's in 2017.
Oh, okay. Make it rain.
Maybe a little earlier with good behavior.
Yeah, that'll be a tough one. So, but my only point is, when you have, and they're not comparable, except when you have a situation where subpoenas are going around, your attorney as well here. In this case, there's 20. Between the individuals, campaign, from the administration, from the Port Authority, and you're trying to manage the situation, how much of the fear of the unknown is there? Or, in this case, does Christie already know what they're going to say or they're going to do because he either knows he was in the conversation, was on an email thread, was involved? How much of the unknown you think goes on in these situations?
Well, there's a lot of unknown. So first with the process, you have more of a subpoena. A subpoena can be issued civilly, which typically, and in the case of Pedro Espada, that was the first subpoena which came from Andrew Cuomo's office when he was Attorney General. And then you have the criminal subpoena, which in case of Pedro Espada came from the Eastern District Attorney Office. Here, same thing in this case. You have the legislators.
Investigations.
You have the legislators in New Jersey subpoenaing Christie's office, and then you also have the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey subpoenaing, starting an investigation. And that's really the side that you worry about, is the criminal side. And so what does that mean? That means everybody's a hush-hush, which means that anything you say can and will be used against you. So you don't get up there and testify before legislators. You don't get up there and hand over documents that could incriminate yourself.
Okay, so now you get to the
Fifth Amendment. As an attorney, that's what you're going to be by.
Okay, so we saw Wildstein from the Port Authority, who was called in front of the committee. He didn't say anything. Said his name, but didn't answer any of the questions, like, are you alive or anything? He wouldn't answer the questions, which is exactly what the attorney says, because once you begin the process, you can't then stop. That said, what we often see, Dom, is you get immunity. Okay, and there's two different types of immunity, right, here. But if immunity is offered to these folks and they still don't testify, then you bring in contempt, right? Is that how this process works? You first find out who's going to talk willingly and then who's not, and then you say first one to take it gets the deal. Is that pretty much?
Well, it's my, as I said last night, it's my full understanding the U.S. attorney or the criminal entity, in this case the U.S. attorney, puts the deal on the table. It's only going to be one deal unless you really have a substantial amount of information. And whoever jumps at it first is the person that's normally going to get it. Now, what that means for the rest of the folks, Richard, that has to go to the attorney.
Sure.
But it's a situation where I'm sure everyone's scared to death. You got to pay money to hire private counsel. And you just shut up because, as you said, once you open that roll and it starts going, a roller coaster, where does it stop?
Yeah, you can't take the fifth once you start answering some questions. And then you do have, in this case, guys, 3 people who have, as we've said, not only got thrown under the bus here, but got backed over a few times in that nearly 2-hour press conference that Governor Christie had, including, of course, Bridget Kelly. She's on the list, as we all expected, as is Mr. Wildstein, as is a few of the other folks here, Ms. Seppian and others that we've heard before. One wonders, is there an incentive for these guys to be quiet? A few of them are unhirable right now, and a large part of that had to do that Christie not only let them go, but did it so publicly. Do they talk willingly, or do they say there's nothing to be gained out of this? I might as well shut up.
She doesn't talk willingly. She's a star player in all of this. Frankly, as it stands right now, her career is on the line. If she talks, no one else is going to hire her.
But if she doesn't talk, who's going to hire her?
Right. So she's in a very. But if she doesn't talk, the message will go out that she's a team player, and she won't talk. She won't throw you under the bus. But she's in a very tough position.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, at the end of the day, the criminal investigation can always go on, so you're probably not going to hear anybody talk, because even if the U.S. attorney says, based on what we have, we've talked to individuals who pled the fifth, we don't have enough information to go forward. But we will continue this investigation if we have further information. So which means to Bridget Kelly and Wildstein that we can never talk if we did something illegally because they can always come back with the charges. So the only way out really is to have an immunity deal on the table and then have them talk from there. And then like any other person who rebuilds their life, years pass by and you come back into the world.
And of course, Andrew, all of this goes into the political context. It's funny because I was reading Double Down, that book that profiled the campaign, and I was going through the chapter where Christie was such a player, where everyone went originally to try and get his endorsement. Then all of a sudden the love came to him as a candidate himself potentially, and he flirted with it a lot more than maybe he certainly led on to the rest of us, and he was certainly wooed. And one thing you take away from that is he had learned from an early election, don't run until you're ready. And all signs pointed that 2016 he thought was his right time, the right window for him. Well, this weekend, Andrew, he's going to try and cool some of the concerns here from some of the folks in Florida.
Yeah, he is. And, I mean, he is still running in 2016 until this scandal or some other circumstance tells him that he absolutely can't do that. And as we've been reporting all week, he's headed to Florida this weekend. The Wall Street Journal doing some reporting on this because Christie is headed for that key trip this weekend. And supporters are, at least at this point, still spinning well for the governor. This, I thought, was amazing. Ken Langone, who's a Christie fundraiser host and co-founder of the Home Depot, had this quote in the Journal, that interest in mingling with Mr. Christie on Sunday has spiked since the governor dismissed the two aides and denied knowledge of the incident last weekend.
Well,
now,
everybody likes to rubberneck to a train wreck.
There's some spin here, obviously, going on to, hey, our guy's not damaged. But I wonder if that's not true to a certain degree, that there's a lot of people who want to get closer to him, probably wanted to get close to him before, and he can actually sort of score some points here coming through this scandal.
We know in politics, right, that all press is good press, no matter how bad it is. So this just got Christie millions of dollars.
Well, I'm going to tell you a quick story in 1 second.
Millions, this got Christie, I mean, he's all over the country now. This raised his profile. In fact, it didn't hurt him very much in polls. 70% of people under the recent Meredith NBC poll said that they haven't changed their opinion of Christie.
In the bubble.
So unless something else comes up in this scandal, forget about it. This thing will go away a year.
Something else will come up. I guess it's the degree. You believe this argument that all press is good press?
There are those that strongly believe that all press
Anthony
is
Weiner
good
agrees
press.
with that, but okay, go ahead.
Here's my story. In the few times that I have been alone with former Governor Eliot Spitzer, he is treated now like a rock star. Like a rock star. And I shouldn't say this, but because he made this comment to me during a private conversation. Yeah. But he said to me, he says, Dominic, all these news articles, all it is noise. That's the way Spitzer describes it. And you should see the folks that come up to him, Governor, will you sign this? Will you sign that? So the question is, how many's looking at the person for, I'm not calling the governor this, but for the freak show, and how many's looking because they admire them.
Well, it's funny.
As a
Ken Langone, who Andrew read the quote from, he was one of those billionaire bundler, the folks that wanted him more than they wanted Romney, and they really thought they wanted somebody who could speak. I can't use the expression they used in the book, but more than authentic, had some brass, you know what, and they've been dying for that here. And they think then and they think now that he's the one voice that can cut through that can marginalize the Tea Party, that can tell folks where they can go if he doesn't agree here. I just still wonder, though, for the party that, part of the party that wasn't sure that they really agreed with everything from some Northeast Republican who hugged Obama on the beach, are they still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt here? Because they were skeptical of him from jump.
Yeah, I mean, he still is going to have issues with the conservatives. This doesn't change their opinion. However, what it does do is get his name, raises his profile nationally, because people start to wonder, who is this Christie guy, and what really is his brand?
I disagree with you.
And his brand is, he's a straight shooter.
Out by the story, neither was Weiner.
But you got to look at, it's not that this story has hurt Christie, because look at the poll, and it hasn't hurt Christie.
It hasn't helped. The numbers have gone down.
And he took immediate action. He fired those that were responsible. He held a marathon press conference. Right?
That's good of him.
And the question is, did he lie? Which I doubt, as a former U.S. attorney, he lied. Although, listen, you know, Clinton was an attorney. He lied in the White House.
I did not. Was an attorney general.
Yeah, exactly. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, but
help him
I
get
doubt
the Republican
Christie lied.
nomination. It might hurt him in the general election, but That's the opposite of where he was going anyway. He's always going to have trouble getting the Republican nomination and would have a better chance in the general. This may actually help him where he needs help.
How?
It's not going
Why?
to help him.
Because
I understand the argument,
because
but it's not gonna help him.
everybody's attacking me, and a lot of Republicans feel like their front guys are constantly being attacked. And in the bubble, he hasn't done anything wrong. And so he can
Unless
get
they prove he lied.
and he can get stand-up points for handling this like a man.
Doesn't matter what party you're in. If you lied, and then you're seen as he threw some poor single mother of 4 kids under the
But
bus
based
to
on what
protect
we
his
know
own
right
hide,
now?
based on what we know now, you're probably right. Okay. There was another big story today here that had nothing to do with local politics, and this had to do with our national policies related to surveillance. And it's an issue since 9/11 here that, frankly, as a country, we're still wrestling with. Well, the president spoke out today about where he sees the limits and the line ought to be when it comes to the NSA. We'll tell you what he had to say, and we'll tell you if he went far enough or too far after this.